Well, welcome back to Gardeners Cottage here in Blakeney on the North Norfolk coast. It's a while since we made an update video on this garden. It's been busy, let out over the summer months, and we're over just doing a final check over before the next let go in for this weekend. It's looking a little autumnal, as is every garden in Norfolk. It's been droughted, something rotten over the summer period, but we've had rain here over the last couple of weeks and now everything's coming back to life. So let's see what we can find to show you of interest here in this garden this afternoon. The autumn cyclamen are doing their thing. We've tried to propagate these over the months and years that we've owned this garden, and every year they fail to disappoint by putting on a beautiful show. We'll take you through into the back garden and show you the clumps that we've got there, but aren't they beautiful? Delicate little things held upright and plenty more bud. Look at the coiled spring-like stems of those new buds as they emerge from the corns at the base. Plenty of flower to come out over these during September and the early part of October. The giant crab apple at the front gate of Gardeners Cottage never fails to disappoint in spring with its massive flower and the apple blossom scent, and then in autumn at this time of year the rosy red crabs just developing at their very best. They'll produce food for the blackbirds and thrushes that just gorge themselves on these during September, October and November as they ripen up. But at the moment, looking absolutely wonderful and heavily laden with fruit. There's barely a month of the year when this honeysuckle isn't in flower, and it's one of the ones with beautiful, strong, gingery, peppery scent, which just fills this little courtyard when the wind's not blowing. It's growing along a wooden trellis fence underneath it, which is now completely obscured. It's really a very mature planting. Just look at the size of this running into the rose, and there's a white buddleia coming over the top. Rambling rector is almost mugged by this, which is quite unusual, but that's going to get away. Just look at the length of the stems coming on this now. That's certainly known to hold its own in this planting. Japanese anemones here in this garden have been really disappointing this year. They didn't like the drought one little bit. But in this little area of the garden where we were watering, because this is a shadow that we know gets no natural rainfall at all, just about held its own. But the amount of flower and bud on these this year, probably about a tenth of what we'd normally expect. And the main clump opposite, which is usually such a picture, didn't flower at all this year. Everything was droughted, died back. We've got a secondary amount of growth coming up, but I don't think that's going to be in time to do any flower here this year, unfortunately. Next year, amazingly, this, what should be a really hard-hit drought plant, purple loosestrife, marshy loving plant, but it's managed to keep its own in here, just in this little shady area behind the retaining wall, and it's flowering beautifully at this time of year. The phloxes really haven't done very much. Again, too dry for them here, but I am taking my own advice, and what we've brought over in the back of the truck this afternoon is trugs full of that mushroom compost I've been showing you for the last couple of weeks, and we're top dressing all along these borders to try and get some soil condition back and some feed into this border, which is very narrow, very dry, and really does struggle with the drought. Now these are the cyclamen I was promising you earlier. This is our main cyclamen border. We usually remove absolutely everything from this, so it's just bare earth with the cyclamens flowering, but this year we're going to allow some of that oxeye daisy to remain in this border, and that should give us some early spring colour. I think we're going to be picking up a little bit of wind noise on this video. I do apologise for that, but it's quite breezy here in Blakeney this afternoon. More cyclamen over under the flowering weeping pear tree. Let's go and have a look at those. The shady dry area again is ideal for these bulbs, one of the few things that will grow in here other than spring flowering bulbs, but these species cyclamen just love it here. Propagate themselves both by seed and little corms that sprout up later in the season. Once these seed heads are mature, you can just pick those off and plant them through, and we've done quite a bit of that to extend the planting around this garden and in some of our other gardens. I've been putting an edge on this border this afternoon, bringing the mushroom compost over and just trying to cut it back to tidy it up. The geraniums along the front tend to cascade across the grass and leave a very uneven and mottled looking edge, but I run a line down, cut it straight with a spade, and we're starting to top dress in this border to try and get some soil condition, and we're going to replant this over the next couple of months. What I need to do before I do that is cut this massive big overgrowth that we've got here from the plum tree from the other side of the wall, and the clematis and rose have gone right the way into this, but it's not allowing any natural light or moisture or water to penetrate down here, so we've got an area of parched earth which really needs addressing, and the only way to do that is to give it a good haircut at the top. Roses are still trickle flowering, lovely bud formation on this. Just look at those three, beautiful to see at this time of year, and the colour in this rose blossom is almost as good, if not better, than the roses when they do come out. But look at that, gorgeous. And in the middle of September, and that should continue right the way through to October in this sheltered Norfolk garden. All in all, not looking bad at all. Agapanthus heads, we're going to leave those on, I think. They're quite architectural, particularly the way they pick up the darkness underneath that tree on the patio. We're starting to clear the patio because it's just become overgrown over the seasons, and it's becoming quite difficult for guests to have enough room for the sun lounges and the table here. So we're knocking this growth back, which was a mixed planting. I've just got a very thin narrow border here now, which again really needs some attention with the pavers that have been here for probably 80 years now, since this garden was last redone. But we're gradually improving the soil, replanting, taking out some of the things and thugs that have overtaken everything else. One last thing to show you, this lovely flowering choice here, which really is just at its peak. Variegated variety, lime green most of the time, with some striation on the leaf, but at this time of year it's just coming into its own with this beautiful mass of white blossoms with those yellow centres. Absolutely delicate and beautifully scented as well. Real beautiful thing to see from the house. A little bit of sedum that struggles in this garden. You see my video on the autumn sedum in the new border with the mushroom compost where that's been planted and how well they've done. This one really struggles a little more, but there's little bits of fantastic colour still in this garden with more of those cyclamen coming through as well. So lots of work to do, plenty of cutting back. By and large it's coming on quite nicely, end of seasonish, but still looking and very pleasant to be in here at Gardeners Cottage. Thanks for watching.